todos, ¿cómo están? Vamos a hacer esa orientación de pre y partido en español. ¿Les parece? ¿Todo bien? Hoy día no es el miércoles 8 de diciembre, ¿cierto? Sino es el jueves 9 de diciembre. Les pido disculpas por no haber cambiado la fecha de esta pantalla. ¿Cómo están? ¿Todos bien? Hola. Este grupo de orientación, la mayoría de ustedes, con la excepción de una sola persona en esta sala, van a España. Y la persona que no va a España está aquí. Y ella va a Portugal y, sin embargo, entiende español. Sí, bien. No hablo ni una palabra de portugués, así que lo siento mucho. Pero si tienes preguntas y no me entiendes, me avisas. ¿Te parece? Ok, muy bien. Bueno, esta es la orientación de prepartida para los estudiantes que van a España y Portugal. Y vamos a pasar más o menos una hora aquí hablando de distintas cosas y temas que son importantes, que ustedes manejan y entienden antes de partir para sus estudios en el extranjero. Lo que vamos a hacer hoy, disculpa, mi nombre es Lisa Johnson y soy la decana asociada de estudios al extranjero aquí en el campus, y mi trabajo principal es ayudar y facilitar a todos ustedes en sus planes para estudiar en el extranjero. And I'm here with...
Hi everyone, I'm Angelo Pisano. I'm the study abroad coordinator, and I do some of that, but mostly really kind of like working directly with all of you and paying your program bills and welcoming you back to campus and working on kind of what the experience means for you moving forward after you return from these wonderful times. So really excited to have you all here in the room, and happy to listen to the
We'll continue in English just so Angelo can help participate in this. And also, it's Thursday and it's 4:30 and my brain is mush. I don't know about yours. So let's continue in English. Or if you'd like, we could do Spanglish and Portuguese, some sort of combination. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do some introductions and some pre-departure reflections. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID monitoring, because that should be on everybody's mind right now. We're going to talk about things before, during, and after study abroad with regards to these specific topics, and then we'll have time for questions. We should be out of here right around 5:25 or so. So far, so good? All right. You should have all received an email with a link to a Jamboard. Open it up. Yes. Yep.
Will you be sending these slides out to us after?
Oh yes, we are recording, so yeah, we'll put this on the Global City Center YouTube.
The slides should also be available as well.
So what I'd like you to do on this first screen is add an image that demonstrates where you'll be studying. We know it's Spain and we know it's Portugal, so be creative with this. And oh, thank you. This is the 4th time we've done this today and this week, and I always forget to show the chart. So sorry. And you could do images like photos, but you can also use the pen. We've had some really interesting artistic renditions of flags and things like that, and the previous orientation. So feel free to be creative. Sure. What's the Spanish name? Supplemental? The yes. Okay. I get supplemental. I like it. I like it. Okay.
This is looking really good. Is anyone's picture trapped in the center there? I think there are some that may have been smaller versions and not represented here, but does everyone see what they wanted to post on the screen in front of us? Mostly? Good. So I'm guessing, okay, definitely with Google Maps, the Madrid, super clear. Thanks for that part. I'm guessing that some of these images too are mostly sites in and around Cordoba too for our Fresco group, right? What is the fort looking structure over there in the top left? Who added that image?
In the top left.
I just thought it looked cool, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it looks interesting.
It does look interesting. Yeah. Or what? How about this one, like kind of on the water here as well? Is that Cordoba too?
That is Lisbon. That was me.
That's Lisbon. Yeah.
No.
Great. And then I'm interested too in the food. What image is that?
It's relevant. It's oxtail.
Oxtail.
Mhm.
Great. And we have flamenco dancers. We have beautiful facades of buildings in Cordoba, really ancient city. And I'm seeing too like a couple of figures in the UCO math department. That's okay. We like spoilers here. That's great. So thank you for whoever posted that. But what about the other figure in the top right, sort of next to the Spanish Inquisition meme?
Oh, that's Rosalia. That's Rosalia.
Rosalia is a Spanish singer. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you have her on your playlist?
I have many playlists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She went on a playlist. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Good. Yeah. And if you have other thoughts on this Jamboard too, you can come back to it. But I think now would be a good time to.
Wait, before we move on,
Oh, sorry.
who's going to Madrid? Yeah, 3. Only 3. I thought it was more. Okay. And those going to Portugal? Okay, big group. And Portugal. Very good. Okay,
Great.
good. Can you guess why we have this as this one group?
All right. So then we also want to hear from you on the second Jamboard. So if you move to the next board, some things that come to mind as you're thinking about your study abroad experience. So we'll take until about, let's say, we'll take the next 6 or 7 minutes, and you can move from this one, things that come to mind, things you still need to do. and what you're hoping to learn or gain from your study abroad experience. So take a few minutes with each board.
Also, if you start seeing trends, you can group things together too if you want to. So there are 2 other boards if you finished with what you're thinking about. Don't forget. You spent time on that one, that's great. What do you still need to do to get ready? Besides getting your finals. Don't forget the last board, something you're hoping to gain or learn during your study abroad experience. Another few minutes. Most people feel they've had enough time with the boards, the Jam boards, all good. So let's go back to the first then and just review some things that are coming to mind as you think about your study abroad experience and things that you're worried about. So we're seeing a big theme in
This section about COVID, and as Lisa mentioned, we're definitely going to come back to that, touch on things we're doing here at the college to mitigate as much risk as we possibly can in that sense. There's also a reiterating theme I'm seeing across the board here about talking in Spanish, socializing, not being able to be understood or to understand people for a hot minute. This one's really tiny and making me realize I sort of may need glasses, but it's, worries about the level of class difficulty. So academic rigor and just your performance in that side of the experience, but excited about food and excursions. It's great. Thinking about making new friends and being with your Smith cohort that's here in the room today. That's great. Did I miss anyone sort of worries or concerns that's on the board here? I love that you're thinking about like your host family and being able to adapt to their lifestyle, but also how to express to them the way that you need to have your needs met as well. And I think that that's good to be thinking about now, and something that you can definitely work with the program directors in your location about how to have that conversation, which is needed for sure.
Before you move on, I have two quick comments. The academic level, being concerned about the academic level, all of your programs have an academic director who will help you pick and choose your courses. And there's an ad-hoc period, right? So if you test out a course that you find might be too difficult for you, you can work with your academic director to get into a course that's more at your level, and being able to do that, content, knowledge, and then in Spanish, right? And stuff. So be sure to speak up. If you're not jazzed about the course and you thought it was going to be really cool, and then you're like, nah, not my thing. You can swap out courses, that's fine. And then also, particularly with the courses that you take at your local university, if there's some that end up being too hard, or you're just not prepared for them, speak up as well. Okay. You can speak up about the ones that are too easy if you want to, but you don't have to. The other thing I was going to say, that the person who's concerned about getting lost, from my own personal experience, getting lost is one of the best things ever, actually. And the reason for that is because it really relies on your problem-solving skills on how to get unlost. I know this is going to sound cruel, and probably it's like, how did she ever become dean? But if everybody gets just a little lost, that's a good thing. So don't worry about it. Don't be afraid. And when you get lost, ask for help. People are going to be more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, many travel stories of mine include relying on a stranger for a little bit of help in the street or on the road. I also I forgot to point out the image, this museum visitor. That's really evocative, and also just something to kind of food for thought there. Going ahead and thinking about things that you still need to do to get ready for your experience. So we have people talking about forms and insurance and bulletins. Forms as important as passports and visas, so we'll talk about those things as well today. And then logistics, so packing, boosters, phone plan, and all the way down to like adapters, kind of thinking about like what, when you do pack, what does that translate to in terms of having the adapters that you need. Other things include language placement exams and just mental preparation. So we have resources, and if we don't touch on everything that you still need to do to get ready today, then we'll stick around afterwards for some questions if you feel like they're very individual, but also we're here through the end of the semester and available for you. So did I miss anything on this?
I was going to put in a call for the booster clinic on Sundays, if you're eligible to try to do that.
Yes, booster. I think if you haven't already, was yesterday the last day to sign up? Anyway, the college is running the booster clinic on Sunday. which is a great opportunity. If you're not already eligible, then we can talk with you about making a plan to make sure you get your booster by the time you're returning to campus. Okay, and oops. The last board about things you're hoping to learn and gain. So natural theme there of the fluency in the language, right? And thinking about being able to watch a whole movie in Spanish with no subtitles and still understand it. I love that as a goal. I love that as a goal because, like, I think most of the Turkish that I learned before I actually moved and lived in Turkey, I was absorbing through film and media. So so that that really speaks to me. Improving Spanish, building great relationships, building on an expansive perspective of life and yourself. It's wonderful. Being confident and independent. Let's see, being almost fluent in Spanish. General life and Spanish confidence. Like, just what is it? Imbibing, life in a different place and sort of allowing that to change your perspective and outlook on the way you live life here. And I think generally just kind of making friends is a great goal as well. What's the super tiny one down here that I missed?
So it says the one above it says improve my Spanish and become more fluent, and the tiny one says asterisk Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Very good.
All right. Great. These are strange times, but these are definitely important things to think about as you're, as you're preparing to go on these experiences, thinking about these goals that you've set out for yourself, like what you've outlined in this last Jamboard. Use benchmarks throughout the time that you're overseas to say, have I gotten there yet? And how am I feeling about my progress towards making friends? And one thing that I've done for the first time in a while this fall semester is check in with students who are currently overseas and kind of helping surface some of those conversations, because you may have, by the time you're 2 months into your time in Cordoba or Madrid or Lisbon, you may have forgotten about this session.
Hopefully you will have not entirely forgotten about this session, but like it'll seem like a long time.
That's right. So we'll be here to kind of help you set other benchmarks going forward, and thinking about the goals of your program overall. The exploration here too, like just making connections with the place itself. I think getting lost helps that. I think relying on your own self, but also each other to some extent. You can get lost together. It's always fun to take a new way back from the institute back to your homestay or wherever. Any given day, I have a friend who did that in New York City, and we try to do that on campus. And anywhere you are, it's always a good idea.
Just hop on a bus.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
So before you close out, I want to make a quick comment about the connection between wanting to explore and increasing language proficiency. So this past fall semester, because we're operating still under a pandemic, some of the programs have recommended that students not travel internationally because of the risk of borders closing. And so most students have traveled within their countries. And for the students who are going to, actually all of you, there will be students on your programs that have been there for the full year, so they're there for the fall semester and they're going to continue on. I am almost certain that they will say that traveling within the country helped their language skills exponentially and stuff, and that their language skills are so much stronger because they did their exploration within their host countries, Spain and Portugal in this case, than hopping on a plane to France, hopping on a plane to England. And I'm not saying don't do that, but maybe at the beginning, dedicate time to your goal of language proficiency by exploring traveling within your own.
Fantastic. All right, so back to
Okay, So, next order of business is talking about some logistical things before you leave campus, before you go. If you haven't done so already, be sure to set up Duo and your authentication, because the last thing you're going to want to have happen is be locked out of the Smith system and not be able to get emails and so on and so forth, or that. You all have been enrolled in the pre-departure Moodle course, and there's information in the pre-departure Moodle course about how to set up Duo. And this is important too, because if you're going to use your own phone internationally, that's fine. But some of you may choose to get a local SIM card. So that, how do you register that local SIM card with Duo so that you still have access? So.
I haven't looked over the Moodle course yet. So are you saying that there's going to be a new Duo to authenticate, or the one that we already use currently?
Well, it depends. If you have a new phone number, then you have to, set up a new
So
Duo.
new phone number, new Duo.
That's right. That's right. Okay. That's a good question. Great. Money and budgeting. What you should be doing, if you haven't done so already, be sure to let your banks know that you're going to be traveling. The last thing you want is for your account to get closed because of suspicious activity with a glass of wine, some coffee in Madrid or things like that. So, make sure that your bank is aware. Also, learn from your banks and your credit card companies what the international transaction fee is for making purchases, because you're going to need to work that into your budget and understand that, if you take €100 out, that €100 might equal, actually the euro is lower than the dollar right now, might equal only $90 instead of $100 and stuff. So making sure that you calculate that. And then also, if your programs are giving you stipends to cover your meals, or in Preshco, I think you will. You had the Preshco pre-departure orientation. Did they talk about homestays and how to pay the homestays? No? Okay, that's coming. Don't worry about it. But you may need to be doing that as well. So you'll get clear information on how to do that. Regardless, again, how do you make sure that you get yourself through the semester and not be broke at the end? Because you'll want to then be doing some international traveling to other countries after you've explored Portugal and Spain from quarter to quarter. Right? Health and wellness. You should be thinking about this as well, and how are you going to manage health and wellness abroad? And you should be speaking to your doctors, particularly if you're taking prescription medication, and how can you access your prescription medication while you're abroad. You may need to be in conversation with your insurance companies as well to get information about how to take as much medication, ideally the full semester's worth, with you and stuff, and making sure that you've got those things covered. It might be possible, it may be that you can't take a full semester's worth, so then work with your programs to figure out how, if and how you can get your medications abroad and stuff that you need that. And then also think about your own wellness regimes and stuff, whatever you do to maintain wellness here, be it yoga or playing the piano or rock climbing, whatever it is, try to find similar situations and activities abroad. You shouldn't be spending all of your time in your room because that doesn't get you out and exploring, and it doesn't get you out using the language and so on and so forth. So just keep those in mind. Let's see, travel and visas. So I know visas for Spain. Yikes, right? How many have gotten their visas? Yeah. Oh, great. And how many have not? Yeah, it is what it is. And the Spanish visa is a bear. How about Portugal? You got it? Yeah, okay, very good. Because that can be a bear too. Patience is going to be a nail biter. And there are lots of entities. There's an organization that runs in Spain that is an organization of all of the colleges and universities who run study abroad programs in Spain. They have written together with several administrators at different colleges and campuses to the Spanish government saying, approve these visas and stuff. So it will come. It will make you want to pull your hair out. It does every year, and this is no exception. I'm sorry, I wish it could be different.
For the pressure program, we have to mail our passports to someone at Wellesley to get a visa. Are we gonna be getting our passports back when we get our visas, or how does that work?
So I heard the first Friday, I'm hard of hearing,
We
so,
just
and
don't
there's,
have our passports. Our passports have been sent to Wellesley.
yep.
And so when would we be getting our passports back? Then would they just be coming back for visas?
They'll be coming back with their visas for sure. I can't say as to the timing because I don't know when the appointment was, and when the passports were delivered to the consulate and when they expect to get that back. Yep.
I was gonna say that I emailed I think her name's Taya for the freshman program, and she said that they have a meeting set up for next week with the Spanish consulate.
Oh, good,
and
that's the appointment.
They will send out a email to the people in Freshco asking for our addresses that we would like for them to mail our passports back.
Okay.
And when we're back for like a trip. Thank you.
Okay, good, yeah.
That was
Okay. And then also just keeping in mind Smith policy, so you remain obviously a Smith student while you're abroad, and therefore you have at your advantage all the Smith policies, academics, student conduct, Title IX, Americans with Disabilities Act, Civil Rights Act. That's interesting. Equal education opportunity policy. So those all apply to you while you're abroad. And all of your organizations are US based, so they are required to comply. Any questions? All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to be, I want to talk to you a little bit about Copenmetrix and what we're doing and we're looking at. So the assessment for COVID is, for each semester, is about a 3 to 4 month process. And the first part is doing a sweep to make sure all of the programs where students are applying to, that they have their own COVID policies for their students on the ground, that they have a way to support students should they test positive. Ideally, that they have a regular testing protocol, that there's academic continuity should the student get sick and need to quarantine for 14 days, and or hopefully, we won't get to this, if we have to evacuate. Again, let's see what else. Whether or not the programs are restricting independent travel, depending on the conditions. So we're looking at that. And then once we've done that sweep, and we've identified the programs that the college says, yes, we can send these Smith students to these programs, then we look on a weekly basis at these categories. And we're specifically looking at the test positivity rate, which throughout the world right now, every country, it's going up. I don't know of any country where it's going down. Has anybody heard of a country like that? So we're all in the same boat with that. We're also looking at the third category as closely as the next close one that we're looking at, the incidence rate per by 100,000 per population. The reason that this one's important is because some countries have a low population, and if they get 5 positive tests, their spike goes really sharply, their trend goes really sharply. And we're like, oh, poor Iceland, you have, so you only have 100,000 people, and yet so 5 is, makes it quite a spike. So we take that into consideration where a country with more population, 5 is not going to be quite as drastic. And then vaccination rates. And this is really, really what is saving study abroad right now. Is not only high vaccination rates, obviously by students, but also the countries that you're going by. And we look at that, and it's improving on a weekly basis. As of right now, there is no indication of canceling study abroad for spring 2022, despite the US saying everybody coming back needs to have negative tests, despite the fact that the Delta variant is colliding with Omicron right now, and so on and so forth. The main reason for that is vaccinations and really good COVID mitigation on your study abroad programs and stuff. So as far as I know, right now, hopefully that won't change either. Smith will continue to support study abroad next semester. Yep.
With the insurance that we're gonna have abroad, are we gonna be able to get like PCR and COVID tests covered by insurance, kind of like how it happens here in the US? Or
yeah, I know the answer for that for Preshco, and yes, weekly testing will be included and no additional cost to the students. For the students on the Skidmore program in Madrid, I don't know. if they're providing, how that's working, and I don't know for Portugal as well. That would be a good question to ask. With that said, and even though the college is continuing to support study abroad, if you're feeling uncomfortable with the levels that are happening right now, please know you don't have to go abroad, right? So don't feel like you're forced into a situation where you're just like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with this at all, and how's it going? You can decide between now and the day before class, no, 2 days before classes start, right? Because that's the newest announcement yesterday. So before January 22nd, you can decide that I'm not going to go, I'm going to remain here on campus. You're all enrolled in spring semester classes, so you'll have those to be able to take. Housing will be tricky because housing is tight. You won't be able to get back into your same room. You will have a room, but it may not be the same one that you just left. Okay, so know that that's an option for you should you or your family members want to consider. Okay, while you're abroad, over, good, doing good. So course approvals, you'll be working, all of your programs have academic directors, like I mentioned. There is a form that I will show you how to get to in just a minute on the Smith website, in which you can submit to me a request for approval for a new course that wasn't previously approved, right? And you remember your plan of study that you submitted when you apply for study abroad. Those courses are pre-approved, right? But a long time has passed between the time you submitted that form and now, and even courses that may or may not be available once you finally get on site. If that's the case, then submit the course change form, and I can let you know if the new course can count towards or can be approved for credit and stuff. There's add drop, like I said, add drop periods are all your programs. Your credits will be added to your Smith academic record as transfer credits. Your grades will also be recorded to your Smith academic record, but your grades will not be factored into your Smith GPA. So a common question that I get is, are study back grades SU? Sort of, right? In that they don't count towards your GPA, but they are recorded. Those letter grades will be recorded to your Smith transcript. Yep.
That's like regardless of if you do a Smith or Smith approved program.
That's a good question. The exception are the 4 Smith programs: Hamburg, Geneva, Paris, and Florence.
So if I'm doing a Smith approved, that would be like not count for my GPA.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Yep.
If there's with SU, are they gonna count as like our 16 approved SU credits or 12 or whatever?
Right. So they won't be recorded as SU. They'll be recorded as the letter grade. It's just that grade. If you get an A, you get 4 points towards your GPA. If you get a B, A minus, it's 3.7. That's the part that won't happen and stuff. So that's a good question. Yeah.
Is there an option if you wanted it to count towards your GPA, or is it just it's a no?
Yeah, no, unfortunately no. But here's some things that can count. If you want a particular study abroad course to count towards Latin honors, that can happen. You need to be in direct contact with the registrar's office, because it's only the registrar's office that can determine if a particular course taken abroad can count towards Latin honors. Sadly, the grade won't be factored into your GPA for Latin honors and stuff, but the course, then the content can, history or art or, I don't know all of the designations, but you can do that too. Okay, questions about that? So far, so good? All right. In terms of money and budgeting, as we talked about, when you're abroad, think about, again, how much are you using your debit or credit card and international transaction fees, as well as if you're using ATMs or cash machines. And I recommend, if you're going to be withdrawing cash, try not to withdraw little bits at a time that you might do here, because every time you do, you're going to get an international transaction fee. At the same time, don't take out a lot of money, because then you kind of run the risk of spending it. That's would be my problem. Or you might lose it because you might get pickpocketed and not know it, and you're like, oh no, there goes my $200 or something. So you'll figure out what your best system is, as well as those fees. With your insurance, so everybody, when you're abroad, you carry your primary US insurance that you do here, like you do at Smith. If you have the Smith comprehensive fee, insurance, that will cover you while you're abroad. And you and if you don't, if you get insurance for your parents' work or something like that, you should be checking with your insurance companies to see if they cover you while you're abroad. In addition, your programs will provide a supplemental health insurance that goes on top of that, and that's the one you're going to use first if you get sick or if you need to see a doctor or otherwise. And the reason for that is because those insurances are set up to be specifically used in Spain and Portugal, and they generally already have providers identified who accept that insurance, and so on and so forth. So it should be relatively easy. I get the question a lot, well, why do I have to have two insurances if the one that's provided by the program would be enough? And the reason for that is because, well, the insurance, the study abroad insurance, the supplemental, is good insurance. There's limits to how much will be covered, and some things may only be covered up to like 80%. And so you want to keep your US insurance to cover that gap and stuff. And then another example is that hopefully this won't be your case either, but I did work with a student many years ago now. They were playing soccer like 3 or 4 days before departure, and they fell and twisted their ankle and broke their ankle. So they were in a cast. They had dropped their US insurance before they went abroad because they didn't want the additional expense. They went back to the US in their cast, right? Because you have to have a cast on for 4 to 6 weeks to heal. And they went to their doctors to get the cast removed. The doctor said yes, but the insurance company, the US insurance company, was like, no, we're not covering it. So they had to pay out of pocket. So those are kind of the reasons that you want to keep your double insurance coverage. As I mentioned before, when you're abroad, pay attention to the natural emotional ups and downs with transitioning to new environments. And some of you may have already gone through that here. I know I did when I first came back in September and August, September, where it's like, I was so excited to be back on campus and see people in 3D. But there was some times, there was a couple of weeks where I was like, what's going on? And I realized it was kind of, for me, it was reverse culture shock, because like everything was familiar and yet everything was different, right? And so you might experience some of that when you get to Spain and to Portugal. So give yourself some time, be aware of it, and just pay attention to those ups and downs. Safety, safety, safety. And it's not like traveling internationally is unsafe. It's risky, right? It's not necessarily extremely unsafe. But what's going to happen, or could happen, is that the people that are nefarious throughout the world are very good at being nefarious, right? And they're very good at swiping things without you even knowing it and stuff. And so your program should be providing information on how to keep your personal belongings safe as well as yourself, right? And the most common claim we get, student was having some wine, coffee, and they get home and they're like, where's my phone? And stuff, and they didn't even know that they'd been pickpocketed and stuff. And this can happen at cafes, it can happen on public transportation. So your program should be giving you some tips on how to be aware of that and how to avoid it. And also your personal safety, obviously, if you're gonna go out at night, go in groups, try not to go by yourself, because that is extremely risky anywhere in the world, and not just in Spain or Portugal. Like I said, adjusting to a new culture, and then making sure, because you've set up Duo, that you're checking your Smith email. And this is important for you as studying abroad for spring semester, because you'll get emails about course registration for the fall as seniors, pretty important. Housing, room drop, anything about praxis, if you're going to be using your praxis funding during the summer, that will be, that communication will come to you. And then Angela and I, we will be reaching out as well. So be sure that you're staying connected and check your emails regularly. Any questions? All right, moving right along. As I mentioned, this is an image of the Smith website. So in the on the study abroad website, there's a section that says while you're abroad. At the very top of the page are the forms to submit. The first one being, we'd like for you to update your address. It's not that we're gonna go and Google where you're at and try to see your, street view or anything like that. But it will be, because we live in uncertain times, it's a way for us to get a hold of you if we can't reach you by email, right? So if you can provide your address and phone number if you have it, so that in case the internet's down or something and there's an emergency, we have a way of getting a hold of you. The course change form, as I mentioned, this is what you'll submit. It comes to me, and I'll let you know, pretty quickly if your new course can be approved. Don't send it to me the night before ad drop happens, please, because I do need some time, so try to leave some room with that. And then if you have to take public transportation to get to and from where you're living to classes, you can submit a transit stipend request. And if you have to take the bus or the subway or things like that, we will cover that for you and stuff. With that said, this is kind of still related to money. All of your programs should have some sort of reimbursement process that will reimburse you for cultural activities, right? And cultural activities are broadly defined. It could be going to a museum, a concert, taking a cooking class, taking a guitar lesson or flamenco classes, or so on and so forth. So I would recommend you try to take advantage of those reimbursements to help, do your exploring and language acquisition and go to cool places. I'm not going to spend time on this. It's in the Moodle site. There's some really good resources that have been created by the University of Michigan about being resilient and traveling and helping students, cope with loneliness and like the fear of missing out. And this came up earlier this week about the fear of missing out, like what's happening on campus and, oh shoot, I'm not there. But soon, when you start having a good time, and you start posting pictures and sharing your, what you're doing, there's going to be some FOMO happening here on campus too. Like, oh, I wish I'd gone to Cordoba, or oh, I wish I'd gone to Madrid. And so it does work both ways in that sense. Culture shock, as I mentioned. Hopefully you won't have group conflict, but you may. And then how do you manage your own personal struggles? And this is a video that we're not going to watch right now. And hopefully I can get out of it. Okay. Just the last piece that I want to, emphasize, as much as your own personal growth, the academic opportunities that you're going to get, your language acquisition that you're going to get. I'd like you to also be thinking about your cultural competence. And I think that's really important, and it's a unique opportunity to use study abroad to enhance and improve on the cultural competence that you already have. So be thinking about what sorts of characteristics and traits are necessary for your cultural competence, or the ones that you want to work on in this new context and new environment. Think about why is cultural competence important. As much here at Smith, in Northampton, in your home, in your home cities and states and countries, but as well as on an international global context. And then how can you leverage study abroad for also not as much as influencing your cultural competence, but how you use it for beyond study abroad and beyond Smith, for a job application or so on and so forth. And before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's December. I don't want to even think about September yet, right? But it will come. And you will eventually need to be thinking about returning to Smith and receiving housekeeping emails about, like I said, course registration, financial aid. So you don't want to miss that one. If you're a non-US passport holder and you work with our International Students and Scholars Office, you'll be getting information about, visas and I-20s. Think about your summer plans. So you're eligible to apply for an international experience grant to do something during the summer. That's funding to do something during the summer. Also, Praxis is a good way to fund an internship over the summer. And the last I knew, the deadline to submit your Praxis request is the last day of your study abroad program, and not necessarily the mid-April date that it normally is. Double check that on the Lazarus website because things have may have changed. It's been a couple years since we've, my information may be outdated. But Praxis is a really good way to fund opportunities. And then when you're, post-Smith, Fulbright opportunities and projects for us. And then thinking about how would you showcase your new you? And I'm not saying that you're going to become this completely, entirely different person, but some things will change. And how do you highlight those things and let people know that you perhaps have new perspectives or new thoughts or ideas about things and the world at large. So think about that. And as I mentioned, we'll be out of here at 5:25. That's all we've got for you. Let us know if you need anything, and we're here for you. And otherwise, good luck with the rest of this semester, and the best of luck for you for this semester.
Very excited for all of you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.